All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is Matty here from Chill TCG. So today we're going to be taking a look at the championship winning deck list from the Chill Series number 20, the last tournament of our second season of the Chill Series. It was won by Angel Aranibar. He's a great player. Actually, his second time winning Chill Series, and he did win with pikarom, an updated pikarom list, sort of probably the best pikarom list that people are playing these days. You know, in this video, we're just going to take a look at his list. It's going to be a quick one. We're not going to do any gameplay or dive too deep into it. It's probably a list that you guys are pretty familiar with, but, you know, it's definitely, you know, something that, you know, we got to make a video on, and we got to give him his shout out. So big shout out to Angel Aranibar for winning the tournament. 227 players, I think, actually. It was a great turnout and a great run on his part. Before we get into the deck list, I have it up right now. We're just going to go ahead and we are going to take a look at his, we're going to take a look at his matches that he played. So I pulled that up right here. One thing you'll note is that he played a lot of Blounds, and Blounds was a very, very popular list in this tournament. I believe that the most played list was Scorch, but a lot of Blacephalon were played, and a lot of them did very well. But of course, you know, we had a couple peaks in top 3, so I think pikarom, you know, ended up coming out on top, but we had a lot of Blacephalon in top 16. And if you guys want to take a look at all of the top 16 deck lists, there will be an annotation above, up there, where I cover all of the lists in top 16. But these are the games that Angel played. If we take a look here in Swiss, he went 7-1. So he lost his first game there against E-Turn and then didn't drop a single game for the rest of the tournament. So he got a loss on E-Turn. That was the only turn he played. Overall, I think that pikarom has a pretty decent matchup against Eternatus for the most part. But, you know, the thing is, even with 4 Crushing Hammers and 2 Yell Grunts, which we do have in this list, you know, you can still lose. It's best of 1. You got to draw those cards to really have a chance. But I think if you find a Yell Grunt early on, or if you hit a couple Hammers early on, you definitely have a much better chance of winning that matchup. Going second is obviously really important. You don't want them to get that Power Accelerator. If they do get that Power Accelerator off turn 1 going second, and you miss your Hammers or Yell Grunt, you're not going to be in a great spot, right? And you can definitely lose that matchup. But for the most part, I think that running 4 Hammers and 2 Yell Grunt in peak is good, because it does help with ADP, but it also helps with E-Turn. I think those are the main reasons, you know, why we would run you know, those cards in pikarom. But he did get that loss there, first loss of the tournament. Maybe he just didn't show up in time, who knows, but that was his only loss there in Swiss. He beat 2 Blounds in a row, and then beat another peak. So overall, I think like the mirror matchup really just comes down to whoever has the most energies on board. I think that's a really you know, a really important factor, right? You really want to win the energy race, especially now that both players are playing Mewtwo. You really have to sort of think a little bit more when it comes to your matchups, because sometimes, you know, if your opponent benches Mewtwo, then maybe you do bench Mewtwo, but I don't think you want to bench it first, or maybe you don't bench Mewtwo. There's a lot of other things that go in, a lot of other factors that go in now that Mewtwo has been included into that deck recently. But Blacephalon, he beat 2 Blounds there right off the bat. I think that pikarom does have a good matchup against Blacephalon. A lot of things that you can tag bolt for, you know, 3 or 4 prizes. You can boss, tag bolt, or Corio and Cramorant perhaps to get 4 prizes there. Overall, I just think you kind of win that matchup. I think it's pretty good for you. But again, you know, it's something that you definitely can lose, even though our man here, Angel, beat like 10 Blounds and didn't lose a single game. So after that peak, he beat 3 more Blounds. I assume most of these are Crucephalon. I think that your Crucephalon matchup is much better than your straight Blounds matchup. That's because they have less Blacephalon to get big KOs, and they really don't want to bench Dedenne or Corio, Cramorant, but they have to, right? But if they do, it's just sort of, it's just there for you to tag bolt and take some, you know, a lot of prize cards, because we are running boss, and, you know, we can do bench damage. So I think pikarom overall wins the Crucephalon matchup pretty heavily, and I think that we can see that here as reflected in his matches. So he beat 5 Blacephalon in phase 1 there, you can see, and then he did get the win against ADP. This was a very good ADP player, Manuel. He did make top 16, definitely our highest placing ADP of the tournament, but I think that, you know, Angel probably has the more favored matchup in that matchup. But again, ADP can beat anybody, so you know, you really just have to play that smart and kind of get your cards rolling pretty good. So that was his phase 1, just 5 Blounds and 3 other meta decks thrown in there. And then we go to the phase 2, right? So he played 5 more games. Phase 2, he played Senti. He won, lost the Ditto matchup, the mirror, and I think that matchup is 50-50, like obviously. But you know, Juan Andre is obviously a really good player, so that's something to note. Juan Andre, I think, got 3rd in the tournament or something wild like that. So definitely kind of tough. Beat another Blounds, and then he beat another Scorch. I do think you also win the Scorch matchup as well. And I say that just because you can kind of keep them at bay with hammers and Yell Grunt, and of course, if they bench Dedenne or whatnot, I think you just overall win the consistency, win over with your consistency and your fast pace that Pikarom likes to play. So I think I like the Centiskorch to match up for Peak. It's one of those things where you can lose. It's kind of like ADP. But I think that Crushing is a better matchup than Centiskorch, but Centiskorch is definitely something that you can win. We saw here that he beat 2 in Phase 2. And this was the most played deck in the tournament, although somehow he only hit 2, and he hit like 10 Blacephalon. Beat 2 more Blounds in Phase 2, and then he went into Top Cut, played Blounds. I think these were both Crushing, and then he beat Mad Party in the finals. I don't have too much to say about the Mad Party matchup. If you guys are interested in seeing that matchup, seeing a Mad Party game versus a Pikarom game, of course, the Grand Finals match has been posted to the YouTube channel. I posted it 2 days ago. It's up there. There'll be another annotation above, so you just click the little thing up here, and you can watch both the top 16 decklist video and the Grand Finals match. The match was actually really close, came right down to the wire, but I think Stamp to 1 really kind of won the game for him. But either way, it's definitely really close. Mad Party can definitely win that matchup. Overall, I think that Angel got a bit lucky with Gabe not really drawing the best cards in the world and not having a really great. I think he just sort of scooped game 1 as well. So Angel, I think, got a little bit fortunate in that matchup, but for the most part, right, I think he played a bunch of Blounds, and he beats Blounds, and I think he did well against the other meta decks right now that he played. So those were his matchups. Let's go take a look at his deck. So again, I'm not going to cover too much. We'll probably just spend like 5-10 minutes on this. But for the most part, it's a very standard Blacephalon list like these days. So, of course, when it comes to the Pokemon lineup, we'll start off with Boltund. So we run 3 Boltunds, and I think that this is the way to go. Some people play 2, some people play 4. 3 seems like the proper amount. It's the card that you want to start with. It's definitely your best starting option. If you're going second, and of course you always do kind of want to go second with Peak, but we have like 4 quick balls. We have plenty of ways to sort of like, if you're going second, you can play supporter. You can Dedenne out, you can Crobat. There's plenty of ways to find Boltund turn 1. If you're going second, you definitely want to get into Boltund and Electrify. That's your best starting option. If you're going first, then probably just attaching to like a Mewtwo or any one of our tag team attackers. That's probably your best option. So of course, we're running 3 Boltund mainly for that reason. Again, 4, it's kind of up in the air. I wouldn't say run less than 3 though. You definitely want at least 3 Boltunds. And then we have 2 Pikaroms. Pikarom is extremely important in this deck. It's really your key sort of attacker in sort of the way that you're going to be accelerating energy throughout the game. That full blitz attack is just phenomenal, and Tag Bolt is a lot of times your win condition in a lot of matchups. So we're running 2 Pikarom just because you really don't want to prize when you're going to be in a very tough spot if you prize Peak. We're only one run Choo-Choo. Now, a lot of people have kind of questioned why don't you run 2 Choo-Choos, you run 2 Peaks. That's because you can kind of get along or get by if you do prize a Raichu, but for the most part, you can't get along if you prize a Pikarom. Although Raichu is very important in the ADP matchup, you can win without finding Raichu, and that's because we do have hammers, we do have Yell Grunt to get those energies out of there off of the ADP, but for the most part, I would say Pikarom's more important, and that's why we run 2. So one Raichu in the deck. Mainly we run it for Tandem Shock, although the Lightning Rod GX for 250 can be really good. It does get 1-hit KOs on things like Zacian or other Pikaroms in the mirror matchup, so that can be really good. That's obviously a really good attack, but for the most part, the 160 plus paralysis is extremely good. The math works out a lot of times. A lot of these VMAXs have 320 HP, so you know what? Tandem Shock is probably one of the most useful attacks in the deck. But I still don't think it justifies us running multiple Raichus in the deck. And then we run 2 Mewtwo and Mew-GXs, so I might as well click on these. So this is Boltund, give you a better look at it. This is Pikarom, full blitz, Tag Bolt. So Tag Bolt, you do 200. If you have 3 extra, then you do 170 as well to the bench. It's an incredible attack. Full blitz, you do 150 and you accelerate 3 energies to one of your Pokemon. Crazy from your deck. Raichu, Tandem Shock, 80 more if you switched in this turn, and paralysis, crazy attack, and then lightning ride 150, 100 more if you have 5 energy on. And then we go into Mewtwo. So we're running 2 Mewtwo's in the deck. This again is sort of a newer inclusion. Ever since Zach Lesage won the Players Cup 2 with Pikarom, which included Mewtwo into his list, a lot of people just sort of realized that it's incredibly good. The reason people play Mewtwo and Peak for the most part is because not only does this guy have 270 HP, whereas Peak has 240, and Raichu has 260. That, of course, just gives you some extra HP, but Pikarom has a retreat cost of 3. This means that, of course, we cannot attach Air Balloon to it to give it free retreat. However, Mewtwo does have 2, so a lot of times we'll discard a Pikarom, bench a Mewtwo, And if we can't find a second Mewtwo to bench, we just bench Choo-Choo because, we have 260, 270, and both of them have free retreat with Air Balloon. So that's kind of the idea here. It also gets rid of your weakness to fighting. So once, fighting cards are pretty relevant, and Mewtwo pretty much makes it so that you can win the Colossal matchup. It's actually not that bad of a matchup. Unless they're running things like Mimikyu, you can definitely win with Mewtwo in there. Same goes for, I don't know, other sort of like any other fighting type deck these days that people might be running, maybe like Sandaconda or something. I think I hit one of those in Players Cup recently. But Mewtwo, it's extremely good. Let alone the ability that it has, Perfection, which is the actual reason that we run this card. We can use the attacks of either the Pikarom or the Choo-Choo if they're on our bench or in our discard pile. So not only do we have less retreat cost, higher HP, but we can actually use the attacks of both of these Pokemon on just one Mewtwo. So it's got the versatility, it's got the HP, it's got the retreat cost, gets rid of your weakness. It really has everything that you'd want. It just makes the deck that much better and that much more consistent. It really puts this deck over the top when it comes to its matchup spread and its overall consistency when it comes to its attacking throughout the game. So that's our attacking lineup. And then, of course, we're running 2 Dedennes because this deck is pretty fast-paced. A lot of times we do want a Dedenne. Sometimes we don't, but, for the most part, we are going to want a Dedenne to find cards. So we run 2 of those. We're running 1 Crobat so we can Dedenne and Crobat one turn if we need to. And then we have an Eldegoss V. Eldegoss V is to pretty much grab our boss's orders from the discard pile late game. But again, we can always grab things like Grunt or Marnie later in the game too, which might be pretty clutch. So, Eldegoss is incredibly good in this deck. And 180 HP, so... and you're kind of safe from getting Crammer-ended or tag bolted from the bench. So Eldegoss is extremely good. And then, of course, we run 1 Tapu Koko Prism Star. This guy's going to be rotating soon. But you know what? All these cards are going to be rotating soon. For the most part, it's just it's extremely important in this deck. So its ability, we get to choose 2 of our bench Pokemon and put a Lightning Energy, 1 each, from our discard pile and put them onto our bench to 2 benched Pokemon. Can be very good. Just to accelerate some quicker energy. This means that early game, we can discard stuff with research. Dedenne, we can discard those energies, and then middle to late game, or even early game, right after we do that, we can just Koko, put 2 energies back on our bench. And of course, Boltund does more damage when it attacks, for the more energy that are on all of your Pokemon. So this deck really likes to just spread out energies, get a ton of energies on the board, and get big KOs with Boltund in the late game. And Koko really helps with that. It's probably just one of the best cards in the deck that we could be running. Definitely comes in clutch and kind of fixes the math a lot of times with Boltund. So that's our Pokemon lineup. On to item cards. So we're running 1 Cherish Ball. We have a lot of GXs in the deck. So, Cherish Ball. Of course, we can't grab Mewtwo with Cherish or with E-Radar. And we are running 2 of those. So we might as well, on top of 2 E-Radar, we're going to run 1 Cherish Ball. And this makes it so that we can find, between our Dedennes, Pikaroms, Choo-Choos, and Mewtwoos, between 2 E-Radars and Cherish Ball, we should be able to find almost all of our GX Pokemon throughout the deck. So I think that this is an appropriate lineup. And then we run 4 Quick Balls because every one of our cards is a basic, right? So if we find a Quick Ball, we find a Pokemon. And that's just another benefit of this deck. Quick Ball is a great card. Also, you can discard energies with it, which works with Koko. You can do a lot of things with Quick Ball that really makes this deck much more consistent. It's in every deck pretty much, but definitely needs to be ran in Pikarom for sure. So we're running 4 Crushing Hammers, like I said. So we have 4 Hammers and 2 Team Grunts. This is our energy denial for the deck. Crushing Hammers, you flip a coin, discard an energy from your opponent's Pokemon. Really good against E-Turn, because most of the time they're just manually attaching, trying to get 2 energies on so they can attack. Crushing Hammers is going to delay them. It's also really good against ADP, because, they want to get the metal in the water onto ADP so they can GX attack. And they, most of the time, don't do that in 1 turn. So between turns, you can hit them with Hammers, discard that water energy, or hit them with a Yell Grunt. Either way, it's just going to really kind of limit their pace, which is really what these cards do. And really, I think, makes the matchup for ADP or against ADP and E-Turn much more winnable for Peak, and those are 2 very popular decks right now in the format, so I think it's almost incredibly needed in Pikarom right now. And so that's our energy removal. Moving through, so we're running 2 Reset Stamps. This helps us in the late game, kind of gives us our deck a little bit of comeback potential. If we ever do get a slow start and they get a couple knockouts there, it's very possible that they KO Boltund and then they KO a tag team, then now they're down to 1 prize. We get to stamp them to 1 and maybe cheese out a win in the late game. Reset Stamp is just too good. It's honestly, it was the reason why this deck actually ended up winning in the grand finals against Matt Party. And again, you should go check that out, that video. It's up here. Check it out. So Snap game incredibly important. We're running 4 Switch We run 4 Switch on top of 2 Air Balloons. This gives, again, Air Balloon gives all of our cards free retreat, excluding pikarom, but for the most part, we might not even be benching pikarom, so Air Balloon gives all of our cards free retreat. Especially most of the time, we're putting this probably on a Mewtwo or a Boltund, just so we can also, utilize the tandem shock effect. To where we have to switch in to do more damage and get the paralysis. So 4 Switch, 2 Air Balloon. Some people might be running 3 Air Balloons. That's totally valid. For me, I think 2 is good enough. But you can never have too many switching cards in a deck like this, which utilizes tandem shock. So definitely interesting. But yeah, 4 Switch, 2 Air Balloon. And then we run a Tag Switch. So this is something that's actually pretty new. So for a while, and back when Zach won the Players' Cup, he was running 2 E-Switch in his deck. Now, I was telling people for a long time that Tag Switch is very good in Peak. Nobody believed me. And then all of a sudden, I think somebody won a tournament running 1 Tag Switch, and everybody sort of accepted that it was the better way to play it. Is it actually better than 2 E-Switch? I think it is, just because it kind of gives you that effect late in the game to set up for a Tag Bolt, which E-Switch, it's just harder to do that with E-Switch. Tag Bolt, you can move 2 energies at once between your tag team Pokemon, and of course, we're most likely we're putting our energies throughout the game on our tag team Pokemon. So Tag Switch is really good. Again, if you have like 2 energies or 3, if you have like 3 energies on a Mewtwo, 3 on a Choo-Choo, you can just Tag Switch them over to Mewtwo, and you can just attach 1, and then all of a sudden you have 6 for a Tag Bolt, and that's game. So definitely really useful. And it also opens up 1 spot in our deck to run an extra card, and I think that's probably where like the second Yell Grunt comes into play. So this is definitely really useful. Shout out to Tablemon for telling me it wasn't better, and then everybody started to do it. So you know what? I'm not gonna say that I was right. But this is what's been winning recently, and this is what people have been doing. So yeah, Tag Switch, man, busted. Okay, and then yeah, we're running 1 Chaotic Swell for a stadium. This kind of helps with welders, specifically Blounds. Like when we're playing against Sandusgorch, Blacephalon, Crushing, whatever it might be, things that really utilize stadiums, mostly welder decks because they love Giant Hearth. Swell is just going to help us out with that. If we find that in the early game and get rid of their Hearth and whatnot, it just really makes the matchup much more bearable. And I think it makes sense, right? We have this spot in the deck. We might as well just run a Swell because there's no really other stadium card that really benefits this deck these days. Like I guess we could run training court to get an energy back from the discard pile, maybe Viridians, but for the most part, Swell is definitely the most useful stadium in this deck for sure. And now we're looking at our supporter cards, running a very basic supporter lineup. We got 4 Marnies, 4 Research. Again, this is just a fast-paced deck. You always want to have options to draw the cards, draw as many cards as you can. That's why we're running them. And then, of course, we have 3 boss in deck. You don't need a 4th boss, in my opinion, because we are running Eldegoss. So we can always get that one of our bosses out of the discard pile. And we have plenty of ways to dig through our deck. So I think 3 boss is plenty. You could run Great Catcher in the deck. I don't necessarily think that it's that needed. For the most part, I think that boss is just fine. I mean, we don't really have a spot to run things like Great Catcher. I mean, I definitely wouldn't take out a boss to put in a Great Catcher, so I think 3 boss is definitely enough, and I definitely wouldn't I wouldn't run less than 4 Marnie and 4 Research. Those cards are just too good and give the deck too much consistency. But on top of those, we are running 2 Yell Grunts, and I mentioned this earlier, so, it's just, increases the supporter lineup here, but Yell Grunt is also just too good against E-Turn and ADP not to be running it, and I just think that it's super important. As well. So 2 Yell Grunts. And then, so that's pretty much it. And then energies, we're just running 3 speed and then 10 lightning, so it's 13 in total. A deck like this, and one thing that I want to mention too, just to track back to go talk about the E-Switch and the Tag Switch, Energy Switch, you have to move basic energies between Pokemon. So this is limiting you in a sense where you probably are having speed energies on board and you can't move those. So you really have to think ahead of time when you're placing energies and you have E-Switch in your deck. But Tag Switch, you can move up to 2 energy. It doesn't say basic. So we can actually move speed energies between our tag team Pokemon, whereas we can't do that with Energy Switch. And that's just yet another benefit of Tag Switch. And it kind of just makes it so that, we can freely play, a higher count of speed energies and use them, right, throughout the game without sort of being wary of not being able to Energy Switch them over, right? So... And it also, Speed Energy is just such a good card. You just attach it, draw 2. It just makes the deck that much more fast-paced and awesome. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the video. Just about 20 minutes. I always go longer than I want to go for these videos. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Tune in tomorrow. I got a special video coming out tomorrow. Go check out those other videos that I mentioned there for the tournament. Link below if you guys want to go play in a Chill Series tournament. And of course, link below for Card Cavern and TCGs. They are our sponsors. So if you guys are looking to get some ptcgo codes, you can use the code CHILL TCG for 5% off your entire order. And it's a great website. Go check them out. Link will be down in the description below. And also, before we go, the $3,000 GG Tour Chill TCG Cup tournament number 4 is actually coming on the 20th, so this coming weekend. It's a $3,000 prize pool tournament. Top 32 win cash. It's $10 to enter, but if you use the code CHILL2, you get $2 off your entry. A lot of codes, a lot of promos, but you know what? Definitely worth playing. It's a great tournament. It's really the big tournament every month that that comes out. So big shout out to GG Tour. Link to register to that will also be down below. So definitely go check it out. But that's gonna be it for me. I'm gonna peace out. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, and yeah, see ya.